Hello, my name is Nathan, and I have ADHD. What now? This speech is going to be about my ADHD experience, but before that, I want to quickly go explain what ADHD really is. ADHD, as you guys can see on the screen, is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, ADHD comes in three main different ways. One of them is to be super hyper and to move around. You go, ah, and you just start running around. That's what hyperactivity is. Attention deficit is you're giving a speech, and then you go see a butterfly, you go flying around, and start looking around. That's what attention deficit is. But the most common one is going to be a combination of both. Now, this is what's going to be mostly seen in most different people, but what does ADHD really imply? So, what ADHD implies is, well, attention deficit and hyperactivity. But to be more specific, it has some good parts and some bad parts. Some bad parts is when you're studying, you can't really focus that much, or you can't do like a lot of activities for a really long amount of time. Usually fidget, you're not that good at time management. And ADHD is also found in adults as well. And although it's uncommon, what can happen is maybe they don't really pay attention that much in calls, or they can't really get their work completely done. But although there are bad parts about ADHD, there are also good parts about ADHD. One good part is impulsivity. Now, being impulsive doesn't really sound that good at first, but it actually is really, really good. Because when you have ADHD, being impulsive means that you're more willing to take risks. One of the statistics that I found was that there's a 300% more chance that someone with ADHD will start a new business. Now, you might be thinking, oh, they have ADHD, the business is definitely going to fail. Well, you might think that, but then that's actually not true, because you guys might not know this guy. His name is Bill Gates. He has ADHD. He also has dyslexia, just like me. And for those of you guys who don't know what dyslexia is, it just means you're not very good at spelling or reading. And basically, it's a lot more complicated. Except, kind of because of that, you might think, oh yeah, he didn't really do that much. But that's not true, because another advantage of ADHD is something called hyperfocus. What hyperfocus is that if you have ADHD, you can really, really, really focus on one thing for a long time. And what Bill Gates said that in one of his interviews is that he said that in his college life, he only focused on Microsoft. So that's probably when he used a lot of hyperfocus, just focusing on Microsoft. This meant that his company could grow and grow and grow and grow until the juggernaut it is now. Now that I've kind of explained more of the basics of ADHD, I'd like to go and talk about my experiences about ADHD. So my first experience about ADHD is what happened in my Physics 1 class. So this was in 10th grade, at the beginning of the year. I had a normal physics class. My school is pretty small. It only has like about 100 people in my grade. But me and a couple of my friends wanted to take AP Physics 1. So our physics teacher decided to go and have this club. Actually, it wasn't my physics teacher's idea. It was actually my brother Alan's idea. He actually made the club. And then my physics teacher was just kind of running it at this point in time, because he had already graduated. So while she was running it, I signed up. I said, oh yeah, I want to do AP Physics 1. A lot of my friends are doing it as well. I want to join the club and learn about it. Later on that day, though, I had done an assignment that day, and then my teacher was looking at it and said, oh, there are not 24 days in a week. And that's what I wrote. I wrote that there are 24 days in a week. I was like, oh, dang it, ADHD, sometimes, makes it so I don't pay attention. So I corrected it, and I put 30 days in a week. Dang it, that's not actually true. So my physics teacher was like, no, you're not good enough at math. And I was like, wait, what? I'm not good enough at math? I don't actually think there are 30 days in a week. But she said, no, you're not good enough at math. And this escalated so much that she actually sent an email to my dad. That's my email. I'm not going to read it, but it basically just says,
He cannot read it.
okay, I cannot read it, and also whenever I read it, I feel really sad. But what it basically just says is, the key quote is, I don't think it's in Nathan's best interest to do AP Physics. Dang it, I guess I can't do it because I think there are 30 days in a week. So that's what my physics teacher thought. And instead of saying, oh, I give up, I'm not going to do AP Physics 1, I decided, I'm gonna prove her wrong. I'm gonna prove her wrong. I'm gonna go and do an online class at UC Scout, and I'm just gonna go get an A, right? Later on that year, I got an A. I got an A in the class. I did pretty well, and the crazy thing is that a lot of my friends throughout the year, they were asking me for help. They were in that club. They knew that I was really good at math, and they were asking me for physics help. And one of her favorites as well, I'm not gonna name any names, but like I will say he gave me full permission to make fun of him. He was one of her favorites, and he did not pass the class. I don't think that he even knows what velocity is, but he was one of her favorites. And he asked me for help like almost like every month or every week about different physics problems, and I wasn't even in the exclusive club, I think that this story really shows that although people have preconceptions of people with ADHD, oh, they're so dumb, oh no, they can't do anything. That's not true. Although physics is probably going to be harder for someone with ADHD, it isn't impossible. So if you put your work in and you work in and study in the correct way, and like not in like the normal people way, then I think that you'll do fine. And to a little bit expand on this normal people way that I'm talking about, can we go to the next slide? I want to talk about my ACT grammar. First of all, it's not actually called ACT grammar, it's called ACT English. And also, it does not teach you grammar, it teaches you how ACT thinks that you should do grammar. This is my score. My first test score. Now, before this test, I was actually studying a lot for it because I was thinking to myself, I want to get a good score in English, and I don't have to worry about it at all. Super score will be fine. And I was reading that book over there that my dad recommended. I had this tutor and stuff. I was studying for it, and I got a 29. To give you a little bit of a scope who don't really know that much about the ACT, it's 29 out of 36. And also, all my other subjects on this same test, I got a 35. So, as you can tell, this was definitely my weakest link. So, I had read the book. I had done the practice. Why wasn't I getting a good score? And sure, I could say, I have ADHD, nothing can be done, I guess. I have ADHD as well as dyslexia, so this also made this part harder as well. But, no, I guess I can't do it. I didn't do that. I thought, okay, I'm working hard. I think I can do this. I just have to change my way of working hard. Now, I don't know if Alan mentioned this, but he also has a slight amount of ADHD. Yeah, he does.
Got exposed.
Yeah. Me, him, and my dad, we all study differently. How my dad studies, he just reads a book. He reads one of those books. He looks online, reads some articles and stuff, and at the very end, he does a couple of practice tests. How Alan works is he goes to like a Starbucks or something, gets a couple of snacks, and just goes and studies while he's eating those snacks. I study very differently. For some reason, whenever I eat snacks, I cannot study. It's something weird about me. But how I study is I just jump straight to the practice tests. I don't do anything else. I just do the practice tests. I do the practice tests, then I find all the holes, and then I watch the video, and which will tell me exactly how this works. That's how I study. As you can see, that is a little bit of a spoiler of what kind of happened, but I did study this way. I did a ton of practice tests. I filled in all the holes on what I needed to do, and ended up with a 36. I want to point out the differences in how people think about this and think about studying, because, for example, my brother Jesse over there, his brilliant advice to me was, oh no, just read it. Just read it and you'll know if it's correct grammar or not. Just read it. Before, my first step was to go ignore the question and just go start staring at a butterfly, but, thank you for the advice, for reading it, Obviously, that didn't actually work that well. And then I was asking my friends exactly how to do it as well, and they're like, nah, you can just read it and you can figure out what it is. You're a native English speaker, you'll be fine. I mean, I was not fine, I got a 29, but I just started studying in a different way. I realized that reading an article like my dad doesn't really help that much. And what I ended up doing is at school, I had this one friend who would just help me and explain all these English and all these grammar rules to me during actual school, because I had a lot of free time in school, but that's a topic for another day. And because of that, I was able to learn a lot from her. And then she was able to tell me a lot of stuff, and I was able to learn a lot more from her at school, instead of reading it from a book. Although I did read some books, you should still read your grammar books. I did like skim, like not skim. I still read through them and I still learned from them, but that was not my main source of knowledge. So that's kind of how I studied. I think what this shows is that if you have ADHD, or even if you don't really have ADHD, you have a specific way of studying, or have a way of studying that's more optimal for you. And I suggest that if you're in middle school, like high school or something like that, you can go and try to study in different ways and try to figure out exactly how you study the best. So then when the time comes when you have to take an ACT exam, you can go and rely on that study method to carry you the way there. Next. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is my extracurriculars. So extracurriculars, not academic stuff. My physics and my ACT, those were more academic. My extracurriculars are more specific, and they're more about me. Now, my extracurriculars are, just to name a few, I have a hackathon on July 4th. You guys can go to that. June 4th. June 4th, you guys should go to that. I'm doing a lot of environmental stuff. I'm doing this documentary. I'm doing water conservation. I've also done an internship at BART, and I'm doing an internship this summer as well, or the coming summer. So I'm doing a good amount of extracurriculars. But the one that I want to focus on today was this fire project. So my fire project I wanted to talk about because it has a story to it. Now, it all started, first of all, when my mom had a kitchen accident, and she burned her leg. And that was really, really hard for the entire family because it was just really not good. So that kind of made me first open my eyes to the dangers of fire. Next thing that opened my eyes was at this place called the Yacht Club when my mom's summer camp was going on. There was this big field of just a ton of dead grass and stuff. And if you don't know, dead grass is very, very flammable. So for some reason, it just suddenly just caught on fire. I heard someone yelling out, "Oh, there's a fire outside!" And I went outside, and it was a giant wall of fire. And then we all evacuated to the street and stuff. And I saw people pouring water on top of the roofs, and I thought to myself, what? What is that going to do? That's not where the fire is. But then what I realized is that when you pour fire on the roofs, the ember from the fire cannot go from the roof and catch the building on fire. And I thought, whoa, that's really smart. So after that, I was thinking about all the different ways that you can preemptively prepare for fires. So because of that, I'm now designing a game where my game basically looks at all these different types of fire hazards that you can have all over the house, and you can kind of, on this virtual house, not your actual house, and then you can go around and you can go and fix this, this, and this, so it can lower the chances of your house getting caught on fire. Now, this is important because extracurricular activities, obviously, like my brother said before, you want to tell a story with your extracurricular activities, and you want to be able to tell them that, yes, this is what I did, this is why I did it, and you want to tell a really nice story. So to conclude everything, ADHD there's not just one type of ADHD. Did I spell something wrong? I spelled conclusion wrong. I did that on purpose to go show you how dyslexia and the ADHD can work together to be bad. I did that on purpose right there. Definitely did that on purpose. Well, my conclusion, and not my concussion, and not my concussion, I would like to quickly say that ADHD is a spectrum. Everyone has a different amount of ADHD. There are 3 different types of ADHD: hyperactivity, inattentiveness, and both combined. If someone tells you that you can't do something because you have ADHD, it doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot do it. It probably just means you have to try a little bit harder. And that sometimes you're going to spell concussion instead of conclusion, and you're going to have to work around that. One really quick thing before I end the speech. I really want to show you guys my speech notes as well. Can you go to the next slide really quickly? This is my speech notes. Each of these red lines is another spelling mistake. This is my my script. As you can see over here, it's used wrong there. I don't even know what that says. And there's just a lot of other different spelling mistakes. This happens with me, and I can't just say, oh no, I'll give up. I'm never going to be able to write a speech ever again. But no, I'm going to stand here, I'm going to go give my speech, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And yeah, that's why having ADHD isn't really that bad.